Good morning, Saitlanders. How are you? We hope that you're well. I want to chat to you a little bit about sort of a recurring theme. I get asked quite often to talk about preparations, and I'm not really the right person. I'm not a master prepper by any stretch of the imagination. However, I want to share a very nice story with you. Recently, Louis and Marguerite, whom some of you know, invited me to their farm to hunt a little bit and to get a lamb and a goat, and it was a big favor, big favor. But there were some costs involved. My intention was to turn it into Vorsa. I paid for probably a quarter of the value, and then I had, kind of an uphill thing to make boerewors. That's what I thought would suit me best. So I was kind of referred to a man in town here called Oom Piet Hond. And Oom Piet Hond helped me a lot. I covered all of the costs, provided all of the ingredients, so on and so forth. And then I collaborated with friends of mine to kind of split the costs. You will know John and Narina, some of you. And then a few weeks later, I was chatting to Oom Johan Eyers. And he and his daughter and his son-in-law, Sharne and Harpia, again collaborated with us. So they were three and we were three. And we did the same thing again. And we shared the costs, and then of what we'd made, we shared with some people as well, some other people less fortunate. And the long and the short of it is that it worked out very, very, very cheaply. Now, not everybody has the opportunity to do things like that. I've never had the opportunity in my whole life, and I turned 50 this year. So it's easier said than done, and I'd be very sorry if it sounded like bragging, but I'm kind of coming to a point. A couple of years ago, I was at a loose end regarding preparations. Money was tight. This is fairly recently. Money was tight, and I just wasn't making any progress. And then it occurred to me that one of the things that will be valuable in a time of crisis is empty containers, canisters, bottles, you name it. And I began to collect them. I now have a large cardboard box, probably roughly a meter by a meter and a half by a meter by a meter by a meter and a half, full of all sorts of canisters and containers, little plastic bottles, pill bottles, medication canisters, bottles from chili sauce. I like chili sauce, plastic bottles for mayonnaise. And it illustrates how possible it is to prepare when you don't have money. I've told some of you guys before, I don't really like telling this story because it's a bit embarrassing, but there was a time not so long ago when I resigned from a good position, and the opportunity that I took next didn't work out. It worked out very badly. So much so that I almost lost the clothes on my back, and if it wasn't for two black women, as a matter of fact, I would have been in a much, much worse position. But they were kind enough we went into business, and the business didn't work, and they then supported me in spite of the fact that their business idea hadn't worked. And it's important to be honest about these things. And anyway, at that time, I was earning peanuts and giving all of it practically, or the overwhelming majority of the money, to my kids, maintenance, school fees, etc. And at the end of every month, I wanted to prepare, and I just couldn't. until the day that I woke up and I realized that if I bought a 2-litre bottle of oil for the month and I bought one more for 36 Rand, even I could manage that. Similarly, even I and even you can collect empty canisters because they will have tremendous value. You may not have the space to store them. I happen to have space in my garage, and I have a corner where I've put this big cardboard box, and I just plonk this stuff in, and it's not really an eyesore at all. And similarly, you may not be able to, you may not know somebody, or you may not have the opportunity to score in the end, I think it was a springbok, a blesbok, a kudu, and another kudu, and a goat, and a lamb that was the size of a house. And I must emphasize, we were very, 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 very blessed. But even so, there were costs involved. Anyway, you may not have that opportunity, but I assure you that if you persevere, you will get somewhere. Now I'm going to try to show you some images of something that we did with some of the meat. So we made a whole lot of wors, piles of wors. I think in the end it was about, if I include the wors that we gave to some people in town, that wasn't packaged. In other words, it was given as 10 kgs or 5 kgs or whatever. I suppose we must have had a grand total of going on for 600 rolls, those little spirals of wors, 350 grams each. That's what we worked on. And we worked out later that all told, was about 36 Rand a kg, which is good. Obviously, we had to put in a lot of effort. If you include the fuel, probably 40 Rand a kilogram. Still, a third of the price of wors in the shops, a quarter the price of that wors, maybe a fifth. 4 times 5 is 200. I'm telling you that if you shopped at a good Spar or a good Woolworths and you were buying their premium wors, a wors made of venison with Persian sheep fat and goat and sheep blended to the highest quality, the lowest amount of fat, no rubbish at all, you would pay 200 Rand a kilogram. I don't think that that's ridiculous. But in any case, at least a quarter the price. So it was well worth it. And that just illustrates to you what is achievable, what is possible. Now I want to show you some pictures, although I don't know if I am able to do so. There's a picture of, as I said, we made the wors, but we kept out inside and outside fillets. I think all told we kept 8, maybe 10 of those fillets. And this is carpaccio that we made. I hope that you can see it well on the screen. And again, I'd be very, very sorry if this came across as bragging. It's not bragging. It entailed lots of collaboration. And collaboration doesn't just fall out of the sky. Collaboration takes effort. Collaboration takes trust. Collaboration takes time. Collaboration takes I'm struggling to find the word. I'm thinking of blood, sweat, and tears. If you and I collaborate on something, first we've got to trust one another. Then we've got to make an effort. And very often that effort is more than just time. It's a schlep. And everybody has to be willing to give. Narina bought all of those lovely ingredients that you can see there. And as I say, this is the Springbok. I'm hoping next weekend to have Blesbok carpaccio. And we did it in the spirit of preparations. It wasn't in the spirit of eating like grand people. That was never the thing. What we discussed was, how can we learn, now that we've made these 500 or 600 rondels of voice, sorry, I know that this, let's see if we can't fix this. Guys, I'm not the best when it comes to the technical side of these things. I just want to see if the image will change. I want to show you something else as we're speaking. Let's see if we can do this. There we go. Okay. It doesn't show up all that well. To get back to what I was saying, a tremendous amount of effort. It doesn't just fall from trees like fruit. You've got to put your back into it. But if you do, you will come right. I'll give you another example of a small preparation which you may not be able to do, which we have spoken about in the past, but with a bit of collaboration, I have been able to do, or am about to be able to do. And that is beekeeping. I've told you the story before. For $1,300, with help from somebody else, we've been able to, or we are about to get a beehive. We've been able to arrange it. Now it's just a matter of taking delivery. And perhaps I should tell you what that is there. That's a picture of, obviously, butter, store-bought butter. It's not Marguerite's famous butter, which tastes something quite extraordinary. And homemade bread. Now I'm going to try and show you how we made the bread. That is what's known as a varkie, and that was made by a Seiklander who doesn't want his name mentioned on the television, but he made a number of those, and he was kind enough to give me a couple. I gave one to Mr. Miller and one to my friends John and Narina. And so our thinking was, that's what I was trying to tell you. It wasn't about eating grand. We said to one another, we're going to make all of this vors. Let's keep some cuts out and see if there's not something else we can do other than have tons and tons and tons and tons of vors. So we kept out the fillets and one butt. I think Narina kept one butt. And then we asked one another, well, how can we use these fillets? Are we just going to eat fillet? And then we decided, let's try do something that we may be forced to do in the time that lies ahead. We may be forced to eat meat raw, and we may be forced to cook bread in outside ovens, little varkies and things like that. And so that's exactly what we did. To cut a long story short, we made bread in that oven. It was absolutely terrific. Those ovens, if one of you has one, if you have been fortunate enough to be blessed with one of those ovens by the man who made them last year or the year before, they work. If you haven't tried yours out yet, it works, it works, it works. The one thing that I would caution you about is just to, a small piece of advice, just to avoid a small failure, is that you should use roughly double the coals. Obviously, it depends on how fresh the coals are, what type of wood it is, and so on, yes. But if we talk about norms and averages and generalizations, you need roughly double the amount of coals that you see in that photograph there. And then it works splendidly, absolutely, faultlessly and flawlessly. So yeah, there you have it. There you see the carpaccio that we made, that we ate. It was terrific. We got a bit carried away. I only discovered afterwards that between three of us, I'm not as young as I once was, so I don't eat like a horse anymore. And the other people are not terribly great eaters, but between us we polished off 2 springbok fillets, and that's indicative of how tasty and fantastic it was. Raw springbok fillet, dressed, in other words trimmed, sliced thinly with a bit of Parmesan cheese, onions and capers. That was it. There may have been one other. Oh, of course, balsamic vinegar. You must have balsamic vinegar with carpaccio. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope that you find it slightly inspirational, in the sense that even if you can't do this exact thing, that you may be stimulated to think about other things that you can do. Whether it's buying a extra 2 liters of oil a month, whether it's buying a 25-liter jerry can of fuel a month, whether it is perhaps collecting old canisters, whatever the case may be, that you may get some inspiration from this, of ways in which you can take your preparations forward as we go into a very, very, very difficult phase of South Africa's history. Thank you very much for watching this video. We appreciate it. Like, share and subscribe, please, and let us know what you think in the comments. Goodbye, and God bless all of you.